protection of the Lord, that in what mood we should carry out our duties, right? In these words, like the Lord is mentioning to Arjuna, in all activities, just depend upon me, right? And work always under my protection, right? So, first of all, we should have an understanding that we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, right? Part and parcel of the Supreme Lord means just like my hand is a part of my body. The hand cannot think of acting independently, right? If the hand acts independently, it's not going to get, like if the hand says, okay, why I have to feed gulab jamun in the mouth? I'll just hold it. And it's not going to relish anything. Unless it works in conjunction with the body and depends upon the body for its nourishment, it's not going to get its own nourishment. So, with that consciousness, that if elsewhere in the Bhagavad Gita it's mentioned that we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, right? If we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, we should act in that conjunction, right? How we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord? We are qualitatively one with the Supreme Lord. Lord is Satchidananda, we are also Satchidananda. Lord is infinite, we are infinitesimal. We are very minute. But we have minute, only very, very minute independence, that we have that free will. Either we can serve the Lord or we can serve the Lord's energy called Maya. Right? But when we serve the Lord in the servitor mood, then we are fully dependent. Oh, that's a Zoom. Okay. Then we are fully dependent on the Lord. When we serve the Lord, we are fully dependent on the Lord. When we do not serve the Lord, right, then namam duskrituna muda prapadendandaradama, right, then, or that's a severe injunction by the Lord. Namam duskrituna muda, four kinds of people who do not take shelter of the Supreme Lord. But if we do not serve the Lord, whatever activities which we perform, we get the reaction, good or bad. Whatever activities we perform, we get the reaction. Right? But if we act in the mood of service to the Lord, now it's mentioned how in this particular purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions the mood of the servant, that the servant should act fully under the direction of the Supreme Lord. No individual independence. No individual independence. So how do we get the direction of the Supreme Lord in this age? Right? The direction of the Supreme Lord to Arjuna, Krishna is directly instructing Arjuna on the battlefield. Right? But to us, Lord is personally not present, like in the case of Arjuna. So it's mentioned by Prabhupada that Lord is present via the instructions of a bona fide spiritual master, or via the instructions of this book, Bhagavad Gita as it is, or via the instruction of senior Vaishnavas. We must take shelter. Especially in this troubled time, we must take shelter. If we do not take shelter, we will act whimsically. Oh, let me do this way, let me do that way. And now we will go crazy. We will go crazy. We see currently more people dying out of heart attack than the actual coronavirus because they are in panic mode. Acting whimsically, oh, let me hoard this, let me do this. But more if we depend on the Supreme Lord, we don't come in that fearful state, oh, what will happen? My bank balance is gone, what will happen? No. We fully depend on the Supreme Lord.
Hare Krishna. I think actually Prabhuji is live in YouTube right now. So I don't know if Zoom was actually dialed in from there. Either we can ask Prabhuji or someone to dial in and put it in front, or we can all keep it YouTube live.
It's saying, just the Zoom is not dialed in, so means, just answer. Yeah, so I think the virtual is also going on, so this technical glitches. So that's the importance of, just like a servant, when he's serving the master, if he acts independently, he's not pleasing the master, right? If he says, oh, whimsically acts, oh, today I am in the mood of service, tomorrow I am not in the mood of service, the master is not going to get pleased. But when he's directly serving the master in the mood of service, the master is so pleased that he provides all kinds of protection. He does not say that, okay, now troubled times, you go away. No. He directly protects. And especially the Supreme Lord, we see at so many instances is directly providing protection to his devotees. To Arjuna, when Arjuna's son Abhimanyu was killed, the next day, that night itself, he's taking a vow. That next day in the battlefield, I will kill Jayadratha. Next day in the battlefield, I will. It's red. Next day in the battlefield, I will kill Jayadratha. And if I buy such. Jayadratha was convinced that don't worry. Dronacharya is going to arrange the phalanx in such a way that Arjuna won't be able to reach you. Right. So, the phalanxes were arranged in such a way that Jayadratha was miles and miles away. And Arjuna had to fight all these Maharathi warriors before he could reach Jayadratha. So he would fight, and then he will not continue the battle with that warrior because his aim was to reach Jayadratha. So he will half fight and say, oh, okay, later on, I'll get to you. Then he will go to the next warrior, And he was bypassing them all. But his mind was always towards that goal, that, oh, okay, by sunset I have to reach Jayadratha. And he's so much in anxiety that he's telling Krishna, oh, God, please drive the chariot fast, No, otherwise you won't reach. And Krishna at one time says, okay, no, just because you have taken a vow, that does not mean that I don't have to feed the horses. The horses also need some rest. So he takes a rest time. Right? And then he kind of taunts Arjuna that, oh, why you all take vows like that? That, oh, you'll kill Jayadratha by the end of the day. Otherwise, what will happen? He said, oh, no, I'm completely dependent on you. It's up to you to carry out that order. Right. So he is dependent on the mercy of the Lord in that way. That, okay, even to reach Jayadratha is depend on the mercy of the Lord. And we see practically that even later on, when the sun is about to set, and still Jayadratha was covered by so many guards, it was virtually impossible to reach Jayadratha. So what did Krishna do? He covered the sun with his hand, and everybody thought it's sunset. Right? And they left Jayadratha unguarded. All the guards started dancing. That, okay, now we have won the battle. Arjuna will commit suicide. We have won the battle. Thus, letting Arjuna finish his goal. So throughout this, Arjuna completely depended on the Supreme Lord's mercy. And so many times, just like Draupadi, Dushashan dragged Draupadi, right, in the courtyard. And was disobedient. Draupadi was trying to cover herself in different ways. And at that time, Krishna didn't come. But the moment she completely surrendered to Krishna, immediately the Lord came and protected. Immediately the Lord came and protected. In the Gajendra Moksha, we see Gajendra is going into unknown territory, right? He's so powerful on the land, but his unknown territory, water, he's not that powerful in the water. And his feet is caught by the crocodile. And because of his previous Sukruti, where he was a devotee, he calls out the Supreme Lord. And the Supreme Lord, so much so that when he's coming on the Garuda, he didn't even want to take a risk that Garuda won't be able to reach fast, and he immediately came down, sent his Sudarshan, and cut off the head of the crocodile, protecting his devotee. Right? So that's why even in the 9th chapter, 31st verse, he mentions to Arjuna, boldly declare to the whole world that my devotee will never perish. Boldly declare to the whole world, my devotee never perishes. Right? So, in this mood of dependence on the Supreme Lord, when we completely depend on the Supreme Lord, we should be completely, just like the Vrajvasis were completely dependent on the Supreme Lord. Right? Any calamities comes, they return to Krishna. Any calamities, they return to Krishna. And Krishna will protect them. Right? So, right now in our current condition also, it's unprecedented. This kind of infection or the global meltdown of economy, the global shutdown of different countries. At least in my lifetime, I have not heard about it. Right? But that happening, the only thing which we can do is to be completely take shelter of the Supreme Lord. If we will take shelter of the Supreme Lord, first of all, our mind will be peaceful. That does not mean that we don't have to take precautions. That does not mean that we don't have to carry out the necessary hygiene, which anyway we should be doing. Proper washing of the hands is that anyway we should be doing. Right? So we cannot say, oh, no, let me carry out my unclean ways and then I will be dependent on the Lord. We cannot say, oh, let me drive the car and not hold the steering wheel. Oh, I'll just depend on the Lord. No. Right? But leave rest, do activities, but leave rest to the Supreme Lord. And ultimately, on the Bhakti platform, where this verses are on the Bhakti Yoga platform, take shelter of the Supreme Lord. Serve the Supreme Lord. Perform your activities also for the Supreme Lord's pleasure. Right? When we perform our activities on the Supreme Lord's pleasure, we put Krishna in the center of all our activities. Right? We have a house, we put Krishna in the center of our house, it becomes a temple. Right? Now, we cook food, we cook it for Krishna. It's not a difficult thing. We can do each and every activity for the service of the Lord. Ultimately, then all those activities which we do would have a meaning. Otherwise, Srila Prabhupada would often say that these are all these activities are zeros unless we put one in front of that. When we put one in front of that, all those zeros has so much value. And that one is the Supreme Lord. Right? That one is the Supreme Lord. We always need to put Krishna in the center of our activity. Then, no, first of all, we have to get off this panic state. Now, the Brajvasis, in the most devastating situations, they were not panicky. The Samvartaka clouds sent by Indra, right, to completely devastate Braj, they're much more powerful, right? But they were not panicking because they knew that Krishna is there. Krishna immediately lifted the Govardhan. And they were inside, protected. And at no point, instead they were thinking, oh, Krishna will be tired, let me help Krishna. So now Nanda Maharaj was also with his stick trying to lift Govardhan. Right? And he was saying, Krishna's hand would get tired, his finger will get tired. I'm helping him by my stick. So in that mood, the Lord will also reciprocate with us. Anukulyana Krishnanu Pratikulesya Varjanam Rakshasyati Vishwasharam. It said the Lord protects us under all circumstances. If we take one step towards the Supreme Lord, Lord will take 100 steps towards us. Duryodhana sent Durvasa Muni and thousands of his followers that, go to the forest. So why Yudhishthira Maharaj would also get an opportunity to serve you. But he was his consciousness was always evil, that he knew that there are so many followers and Yudhishthira Maharaj won't be able to serve. And Durvasa Muni is known for his anger, he will curse him. Right. And there also, Lord comes for the protection. In the burning of the palace, Lakh Palace, Lord comes for the protection. So whenever they remember the Lord is always present. As a result, it became so much routine that Kunti Maharani later on prays, oh Lord, give me more misery so that I can always remember you. Because you were always present with us whenever we remembered you. You are always present. Give me more miseries. Higher consciousness. We cannot ask for that. She was in a higher consciousness. She was asking, give me more miseries. Right? So that's the consciousness which we should dwell in, especially in this trouble time. We go on continuing performing our devotional service without any fear. Take proper precautions, and Lord will protect us from all kinds of miseries. From all kinds of miseries, Lord will protect us. Let's see, what's the time? Are there any questions? Discussions? Online questions also are welcome.
They have to unmute by hitting star 6 on their side, not on our side.
Yes, let them unmute, okay.
No, we did. Otherwise they are not able to hear.
Okay. We can unmute with the star 6. So if anybody has any questions, we can have take questions at this particular point? Even from here, we can take questions in the meantime when they are figuring out. Any questions, discussions, additions, realizations? Right. Were they knowing that Krishna is the Supreme Personality? No, they were not knowing that Krishna is the Supreme Personality, but they were, because Krishna killed so many demons, they were knowing that Krishna had some unnatural powers. So the friends of Krishna will always also, if there is calamity, they'll always look towards Krishna. Nanda Maharaj and all, oh okay, Krishna, you stopped Indra Puja, see? He became angry. So they looked towards Krishna and Krishna made some arrangements. Right. So they knew that Krishna has some child is specially favored, he has some unnatural powers. Otherwise, if they will think that, oh, he is the Supreme Lord, it will restrict their rasa of parenthood. They'll start serving him in awe and reverence. So they were in higher mood. Just like the sakhas of the Supreme Lord. If they will think that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, do you think that they will climb on Krishna? No, right? But if Krishna will lose in the wrestling match, right, he will have to lift the sakha and the sakha will climb on him. So that's the reciprocation of that particular mood in which they were in. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so my next question is related to this one.
Yes.
So there are some gurus, bogus gurus, and their shishyas.
Hmm.
They consider him as a Krishna or he's a superpower. And they just think that he's a superpower or superpower. So how we can
Yeah.
think or relate this to?
Well, they don't accept him as a Supreme Lord. Not only that they don't accept him as a Supreme Lord, but they have no conception of the Supreme Lord. Right? Or if they have conception of the Supreme Lord, they have wrong conception. They'll start thinking, oh, my Guru is the Supreme Lord, or because he can produce ash or this or that. Right? So they'll repose their faith on someone else. Incorrect means incorrectly. Yeah. So that's the difference. That okay. While in the case of the Vrajvasis, they knew that Narayan is the Supreme Lord. They'll worship Narayan.